A savage winter storm tore through the countryside, plunging temperatures to deadly lows, leaving a farmer desperate to save his livestock. In a wild, unthinkable move, he ushered a feral mare and her newborn foal into his home, clueless that this choice would unravel a jaw-dropping mystery. Before continuing the story, tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. Thank you. The wind howled violently outside, shaking the wooden walls of the old farmhouse. The storm had been raging for hours, bringing snow, ice, and a bitter chill that seeped through every crack. Inside, Lucas Bennett, a rugged yet kind-hearted rancher, paced back and forth near the fireplace, rubbing his hands together for warmth. He had never seen a winter like this. The temperature had dropped dangerously low, cold enough to freeze water inside the barn. Lucas pulled on his heavy coat and stepped outside into the freezing wind. His boots crunched against the snow as he made his way toward the barn, where his beloved Mustang mare, Sage, and her newborn foal, Willow, were sheltered. He had raised Sage since she was a young filly. She wasn't just a horse, she was family. But tonight, family wasn't safe out here. When Lucas reached the barn, his heart clenched. The cold had crept in despite the thick wooden walls. Sage's breath came out in thick clouds, and her foal shivered violently beside her. Lucas ran a hand through his frozen hair. They weren't going to make it through the night in here. He took a deep breath, looking at Sage. Then he made a decision that no one in their right mind would make. "I can't let you freeze to death," he whispered. And with that, he did something unimaginable. He opened the barn gate and led them toward his house. Lucas gripped Sage's lead rope tightly as the wind whipped against them. The mare hesitated at first, her ears flicking back as if unsure about stepping out of the barn. "Come on, girl," Lucas urged gently, tugging slightly. "You won't survive out here." Sage exhaled heavily, her warm breath misting in the frigid air. And then, as if understanding the urgency, she stepped forward. Behind her, the small foal, Willow, struggled through the deep snow, his spindly legs sinking with each step. He let out a weak whinny, nudging against his mother for warmth. Lucas walked carefully, leading them toward the farmhouse. His mind raced. Bringing horses inside? That was insane, no one did that. But then again, no one had ever seen a winter this brutal. When they reached the porch, Lucas hesitated for a moment. The warmth from inside seeped through the wooden door, a stark contrast to the freezing wind howling behind them. He had planned to only let them into the mudroom, just a temporary solution until the worst of the storm passed. But the moment he opened the door, Sage stepped inside without hesitation. Lucas's eyes widened. It was as if she already knew what to do. The warmth of the house immediately washed over them. Sage shook herself, sending tiny flecks of frost flying from her mane. Willow stumbled in behind her, his legs wobbling, still adjusting to the unfamiliar surface of the wooden floor. Lucas closed the door firmly, sealing out the biting chill. For the first time in hours, a wave of calm washed over him. Yet as he pivoted, gazing at the scene, a mature Mustang and her tiny foal standing in his living room, he grasped how utterly bizarre this moment was. Sage released a long, steady breath, surveying the space with composure. No trace of alarm or unease, just quiet acceptance. Willow, by contrast, brimmed with curiosity, his little snout quivering as he explored the furniture, ears twitching with delight. Lucas let out an uneasy laugh. "Guess you two can settle in," he muttered. He fetched a weathered blanket, gently laying it across Sage's back to soak up the lingering cold clinging to her. Then, something unexpected unfolded. Sage headed for the hearth, not aimlessly drifting, but striding purposefully to the coziest corner of the room, standing there like it was routine. Lucas's brow creased. How could she tell? Most horses would be frantic, stomping nervously, rattled by such an alien setting. Yet Sage showed no sign this was unfamiliar. Kneeling beside Willow, Lucas ran a tender hand along the foal's spine, sensing warmth seep back into his fragile frame. "You're okay now, buddy," he said softly. His gaze shifted back to Sage. He'd cared for her for years, but now doubts crept in. He didn't know her as well as he thought. Why did she seem so at ease indoors? Why head straight for the flames like it was second nature? Had she been in a home before? His pulse quickened, and then it struck him like a thunderbolt. Rising slowly, he fixed his eyes on Sage, a startling idea surging through his mind. "Sage," he breathed, "what aren't you sharing?" A nagging unease gripped him. Sage had entered his home as if she'd done it countless times. No trace of dread, no pause, just effortless recognition. That wasn't typical. Even well-trained horses didn't act this way. Lucas dragged a hand through his hair, pacing while the fire snapped behind him. Sage lingered serenely by the heat, her ears tilting as she tracked his movements. Willow, now toasty, nestled against his mother's flank, eyes drooping drowsily. Lucas exhaled heavily and sank into his tattered armchair, still studying Sage. "What's your tale, girl?" he murmured. She swished her tail, adjusting her stance but holding his gaze unwaveringly. Outside, the storm roared fiercer, shaking the panes. The gusts wailed against the house. Yet within, the fire's glow and the tranquil aura of the Mustangs wove a strange serenity. Almost instinctively, Lucas reached for the modest wooden chest on the nearby stand. It was Samuel's old box. His grandfather had passed it down years ago. A collection of letters, ranch records, and horse breeding logs. Here's a rewritten version of the passage with altered wording, but the same core content preserved in American English, U.S. Lucas couldn't pinpoint why, but an urge nudged him to lift the lid. His fingertips grazed the brittle pages until he tugged free a yellowed sheet bearing Sage's name. His forehead creased. The document was ancient, far older than the day she'd come into his life. At the top, a detail snagged his attention. Previous owner, Henry Grayson. Lucas's breath caught. That was his grandfather's name. His pulse surged as he sifted through more records, each unveiling fragments of Sage's history. Then he uncovered something that knotted his gut. A worn black and white snapshot. It pictured his grandfather outside a house. This very house. Beside him stood Sage. A chill coursed through Lucas's veins. His thoughts spun. It couldn't be. Sage wasn't that age. He flipped the image, hands quaking. Scrawled in his grandfather's frail script was a date. Winter 1983. Sage's first storm indoors. Lucas's eyes flared. Sage had been in this house before, 40 years prior. The truth sent a shiver rippling through him. She'd known. She'd recalled. That explained her fearless entry, her beeline for the hearth. She'd weathered another savage winter right here. Lifting his gaze to her, his chest constricted. "You've been here, haven't you?" he murmured. Sage's eyes fluttered shut briefly before she dipped her head, brushing the armrest of his grandfather's weathered chair. Lucas's throat thickened. His grandfather had rescued her once. Now she'd return for salvation again. As the weight of it settled, Lucas eased back in his seat, peering at the tempest roaring outside. Some events weren't mere chance. Some were destined. He sat in awed stillness, fingers still clutching the fragile photo, its edges quivering faintly as his mind churned. Sage had been here once. She'd lingered in this exact space. By this same fire, 4 decades back, his grandfather had sheltered her through another merciless winter, and now she'd retraced her steps. Lucas gulped, the discovery stirring unease. Not fear, but a quiet challenge to all he'd believed. Was it pure reflex? A lingering echo? Or something more profound? Beyond the storm thundered on, winds battering the walls, yet within, silence reigned. Sage rested serenely near the blaze, her amber coat catching the dancing flames. Willow nestled close, his soft breasts lifting his small frame. Lucas flipped the photo once more. He traced the inscription in his grandfather's hand. Winter 1983. Sage's first storm indoors. His eyes wandered to the chest of aged documents. There had to be more waiting. With renewed urgency, he shuffled through the aged documents, his fingers brushing against old ranch logs, vet records, and training notes. Then he found something else. A letter. The paper was delicate, nearly falling apart at the edges, but the ink was still readable. His grandfather's words jumped off the page. "Lucas, if you ever read this, it means Sage has found her way back to you. I don't know how or when, but I know she will. She is not just any horse. She is family. She has the heart of this land, and she carries the spirit of all who have loved her. Take care of her. One day she will take care of you. Lucas exhaled sharply, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. He read the words over and over again, his throat tightening. His grandfather had known. Somehow, decades ago, he had known that Sage's journey wasn't over, that she would return, that she would find him. Lucas looked up slowly, his eyes locking on to Sage. She stared back at him, unblinking, steady, waiting. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind. One day, she will take care of you. He let out a shaky breath, rubbing his hands over his face. Damn it, Grandpa, he muttered, his voice thick with emotion. This was more than just a storm, more than just a coincidence. This was fate, and fate had brought her home. The fire crackled softly, casting warm golden light across the room, but Lucas barely noticed. His mind was still spinning. His grandfather's words were etched into his thoughts like carvings in stone. One day she will take care of you. He gazed at Sage once more, poised serenely beside the hearth, her amber coat shimmering under the dancing flames. How had she navigated her way back? How had she endured all those years? And why? Why had she picked him? Lucas let out a slow breath, dragging a hand across his face. She wasn't merely a horse. She was kin. Willow emitted a faint whinny, shifting slightly, and Sage tenderly bumped him with her muzzle. The foal extended his limbs, then coiled back up, his breaths gentle and even. Lucas reclined in his chair, eyes tracing the ceiling. This night had defied all expectations. Sage herself was a marvel. Then clarity struck. He knew his next step. For years, Lucas had toyed with the idea of parting with a chunk of the ranch. Winters grew fiercer, the labor relentless, and he'd begun to doubt if he was destined to sustain it. But now, with Sage and Willow before him, the truth crystallized. This land wasn't solely his. It belonged to them. Letting it slip away was unthinkable. Lucas leaned forward, his resolve hardening silently. Come morning, after the tempest subsided, he'd begin mending the barn. Tomorrow he'd ensure Sage and Willow received top-notch care. Tomorrow he'd embrace that this ranch, this existence, was his true calling. For some ties endure, some vows persist, and some horses return with purpose. The storm had cleared. Lucas stood on the porch, arms folded, watching dawn's first rays kiss the snow-draped fields. The sky gleamed a soft blue, the air sharp yet invigorating, and the heaviness in his chest had lifted like never before. Inside, Sage lingered peacefully by the fire, her ears twitching as she tuned to the stillness. Willow stretched his slender legs, letting out a quiet whinny, at ease at last after the frigid night. Lucas pivoted toward them, his boots groaning against the planks. All right, he said with a breath. Time to get you both back where you fit. Sage raised her head instantly, ears perked as though she grasped his intent. Lucas swung the door wide, and for the first time since the blizzard hit, the chill felt revitalizing rather than harsh. He moved aside, granting Sage room. She paused briefly before stepping through, unhurried, fearless, exuding the same calm certainty she'd shown from the start. Willow trailed near, his small hooves etching faint marks in the pristine snow. Lucas strode beside them as they headed for the barn. The building had weathered the gale, but it bore scars. The roof was battered, and icy drafts had pierced its aged timbers. It wasn't merely a shelter, it was their haven, and fixing it fell on him. Lucas ran a hand over Sage's mane as she stepped inside, finally back where she belonged. I'll get this place fixed up, he murmured, and you're staying here, for good. Sage blinked at him, then nudged his shoulder softly. Lucas chuckled, shaking his head. Yeah, you probably knew that before I did. He grabbed a toolbox from the corner and took a long breath, looking at the barn, the place where his grandfather once worked, where generations of horses had been raised, and now it was his turn. By the time the sun had fully risen, Lucas was already working. He hammered boards back into place, reinforced the walls, and planned new insulation. This ranch wasn't just a piece of land, it was a home, a legacy, a promise that had begun with his grandfather and had come full circle with Sage's return. From time to time, he glanced toward the stall where Sage stood, watching him work. And for the first time in years, Lucas felt completely at peace. The days after the storm passed felt different. The ranch, once a place of routine and quiet isolation, now felt alive again. Not because of the land or the repairs Lucas had started, but because of the presence of Sage and Willow. Lucas stood outside the barn, hammering the final plank into place. He wiped his forehead, taking a step back to admire his work. The barn, his grandfather's barn, was whole again. Inside, Sage stood near Willow, the foal playfully nipping at her mane. She let out a soft sigh, content, safe, home. Lucas chuckled as Willow stumbled forward on his long legs, still clumsy but eager to explore. He had changed in just a few days, stronger, more confident. Surviving the storm had made him resilient, and maybe, Lucas thought, it had done the same for him. He leaned against the barn door, arms crossed, watching the pair in silence. He had spent years wondering if he was meant to keep the ranch running. Now he knew. It wasn't just his responsibility, it was his purpose. Because this land wasn't just his, it belonged to the horses that ran through it, to the generations that had lived before him, to the bond between man and nature, a bond that couldn't be broken. Lucas exhaled, stepping forward. Sage lifted her head as he reached her, watching him with those same knowing eyes. He ran a hand down her mane, his voice steady. "You found your way back." She blinked slowly, then nudged his chest, just like she used to do when she was young. Lucas let out a quiet laugh, feeling something settle in his chest. It wasn't just luck that she had returned. It was meant to be. And as Willow took his first steps into the open field, his tiny hooves pressing into the earth that had raised his mother, Lucas knew one thing for sure. Some stories never end. What a story that just keeps tugging at our hearts. From a freezing, storm-ravaged night, the farmer's daring choice didn't just save a mare and her foal. It peeled back layers of time to reveal a stunning connection to his grandfather, etched in faded letters in an old photograph. It makes me wonder, how many moments in life that seem random are actually fate waiting to be uncovered? Sage is more than a horse. She's a symbol of love, loyalty, and the enduring power of family, showing us that sometimes home isn't just a place, it's where our hearts truly belong. What did this story stir in you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I can't wait to hear them. If you're moved by these heartwarming, inspiring tales, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, give us a like, and share this video to spread the incredible feeling far and wide. Thanks for joining me on this journey. See you in the next video, and keep believing in the hidden miracles all around us.